The first thing to know about playing this song correctly is the tuning. The low E string gets dropped to a D. And the fifth string, which is tuned typically to an A, gets dropped to a G. The chords for this song are a G, a D, an E minor, and an A minor. But because of how we're tuned, we may be making these chords differently from what you are accustomed to. So here's how you make them. The G chord, you're going to fret just one string. It's the second string, the D string, and you're going to do it usually with your pointer finger on the third fret. And then you're going to let ring the fifth string, which is tuned down to a G, the fourth string, which is a D, the third string, a G, and the second string that you have fretted on the third fret. That's your G chord. Don't worry about your low sixth. It's not necessary for this chord. The second chord that you're going to make is a D chord, and the way that you're going to make this is you're going to fret with your ring finger on the second string, third fret, your middle finger on the third string, second fret, and with your first finger on the fifth string, second fret. And you're going to just let everything ring out. That's going to be your D chord. Occasionally Jason Isbell will sometimes let this first string, the high E, ring. Sometimes he kind of mutes it and won't let it ring out. It's just up to you how you do that. The third chord, the E minor, you're going to move your pointer finger from its position on the fifth string, second fret, and just move it down to the sixth string, second fret, and you're going to pick up your middle finger so that that G will ring out. So you're letting ring the lowest string, which you've fretted on the second fret. Then you're going to let ring also the fourth string, the third string, and the second string, which you have fretted still with your ring finger on the third fret. That's your E minor chord. Finally, the A minor chord. Usually your fifth string is tuned to an A, so you want for that to ring open in an A minor chord. But since this is tuned down to a G, that can't happen. You actually will fret this fifth string with your middle finger on the second fret. You will fret the fourth string on the second fret with your ring finger, and then you'll fret the second string on the first fret with your pointer finger, and that's going to be your A minor chord. And technically it's not an A minor because we have this third string G ringing out, making it maybe a A minor seventh or something, but this is the way that Jason Isbell makes his A minor chord. And you can let the fifth string down ring out. You're not too concerned with the sixth string, you don't want for that to ring, but everything else will ring out in this chord. So that's how you make these chords. As far as the strumming rhythm for this song goes, it is finger picked, and it's going to rely on your thumb plucking down, kind of being the attack for any time that you want to move the progression or accentuate a note. It's going to be your thumb that will pluck down to attack that note or attack that movement that's happening. But then with Jason Isbell uses primarily his pointer finger to flick down. Sometimes I'll use my other fingers as well and just kind of rake down the strings. But you'll be relying on your first finger or your first and second fingers to kind of be strumming along down here on the strings. Here's the rhythm that you're going for. So notice again, with the thumb attacking, but your fingers are strumming a rhythm that is a down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down. And it just does that pretty much the whole time. Now sometimes your thumb may be plucking more than just kind of once per measure, depending on what notes you're attacking and what chords you're moving to. But that is the general rhythm that you're looking to achieve. And more often than not, your first and second fingers that you're just kind of flicking with, you're wanting for those to be accentuating your higher strings up here. You're not going to be doing a whole lot of flicking that's down here on your low strings. That's reserved for your thumb to be making attacks on, and then you'll be providing the rhythm supports down on or up on these higher strings with the down, up, down, down, up, down. The main riff that stands out to us whenever we listen to this song happens in the movement from the G chord into a D chord, and it relies on hammer-ons that take place on the 5th string, hammering to the 5th fret and then to the 4th fret with your ring finger and your middle finger. Here's what that sounds like. That's the first part of it. Hammering with your ring finger to the 5th fret and hammering with your middle finger to the 4th fret. And listen to how I'm doing this. I'm plucking and then immediately hammering. Alright, the second part happens inside of the D, because that's the next chord. And there's another hammer-on that takes place where you would hammer from, again, the open and exposed 5th string, hammering with your first finger down onto the 2nd fret. And it would sound like this inside of the D chord. Another thing to point out about what I'm doing right here, I'm making this D chord a little bit differently from how Jason Isbell tends to make it. He makes it like this right here. It's the exact same notes. It's just easier for me sometimes to make it there like that, because coming out of this little walk down right here, if you listen to the album and listen to him play it live, there is a slide that happens from this 4th fret down into that A note, and it's easier for me to execute it if I'm doing it with my middle finger. So I tend to slide that note down, and then I'll plant the others, my ring and my pinky, to flush out that D chord there. Another point to be made about how Jason Isbell sometimes does this is it's not necessarily always hammer-ons happening in this walk down. Sometimes he just walks it down straight and it sounds like but sometimes it's hammer-ons. So you can listen to the album and kind of determine where those fit in or how you would like to best execute that. Lastly, I'll demonstrate just a little bit about the other chord changes that take place. You really kind of need to be hearing the lyrics, I guess, or be singing the lyrics to understand where the changes take place. But the other changes will happen coming out of a D chord going to the E minor, and you would just go to the E minor, back to the D, so it does that and usually goes back up to, but sometimes coming out of the E minor, going back into the D, it will change and go to the A minor, and that's where the, I guess, sort of pre-chorusy bridge, I don't even know what you would call it, because this isn't really a standard verse and chorus style song, but coming out of the D, it will go to the A minor that we talked about earlier. Back to the D, to the A minor, to the D, and then back to your G. And then sometimes coming out of the G, it'll go to the A minor. Usually at the end of every kind of whole group of thoughts, it will resolve. Maybe it's not even a resolve, but it comes back to this A minor to kind of ponder for a bit, I guess, and then back into the G. And again, that's something that you can listen along with the album to hear where those changes happen and practice based on how I've shown you how to make those chords and make those hammer-ons.